First of all, very pleased Christian actually went there. I think Christian went there on a good day. If you went there on not so a good day, I think Christian would have mentioned the very strong smell from a very large sewage works. He had also mentioned, if he'd gone there in November, the massive overhanging steam cloud from the second largest incinerator in the country. So actually, it was a good visit he had, and I'm very pleased he saw it on one of the better days. That's really we've been working on this for 8 years now, and some of those issues we've now knocked on the head. Ofwat have now agreed to remove 98% of the smells from the sewage works, which that will be all fully implemented in 2 years' time. We've actually been working very well with the Canal and River Trust, because the other issue is Meridian Water is actually part of the floodplain management. So on a sort of 1 in 100 years, Meridian Water goes deep, sort of 40 feet underwater. But the huge advantage of that is the River Lee goes right through the middle of it, and we're going to turn it into a little Venice with lots and lots of waterways coming off that main river. And this comes back to livability, a fantastic living environment, living by waterside, working by waterside. So all the floodplain work has given a fantastic opportunity. I think it's been mentioned, the rail, the 4 trains an hour, which has taken quite a bit of lobbying to get to, is really the basic start point. It makes the scheme just about viable. I think Christian's point about cost pressures, 79 million, is a fair comment. I do hear from working groups that Network Rail have a few struggles, but their regional director and TfL assure me it's all in hand, won't be a problem, and the first trains will be arriving. And as Christian says, as long as I'm not paying, not too worried, to be absolutely honest. But the real lobby beyond that is for 2022 to get 8 trains an hour. There is a proposal in front of Treasury, well supported by GLA, well supported by Network Rail, and absolutely critical to turn this into a fantastic place to live and to work. I think it's fair to say that actually the cycling route is challenging. That's why we were delighted that our bid for Mini Holland succeeded, and is actually, with a good cycleway, only a few minutes from the Olympic Park, only a few minutes, depending on speed of cycling, from the City of London. And lots of people, including David Luntz just here, already cycle up to Hertfordshire, and it's a fantastic ride along the Lee Valley Regional Park Authority. And that's one of the key bits about livability, because the Lee Valley Regional Park Authority are very willing to naturally integrate their park into this development. So there's going to be a beautiful green space. The new all-through secondary primary school will be using their fields as playing fields, making it very, very space intensive. But obviously the ideas around car clubs, the ideas around covered cycle storage areas, all these are detail that needs to be working through. And at the moment, I guess the planning policy position of 0.6, 0.7 is to sort of bridge the reality of now, where it's very, very, very car dependent, to the ultimate vision. But having been a couple of times down to the Olympic Park, looking at their car usage, I was imagining as this scheme rolls out that car usage will decline. So I think the challenges that have been raised are absolutely spot on. It's why Enfield Council, which is a unanimous decision of the Council 8 years ago, is playing a lead role. We are buying very large amounts of land so we can control it and make sure that it hits our aspirations for quality, whilst working closely with the private sector. And we have got several other major regeneration schemes either completed or in process, where we work hand in glove with private sector developers and housing associations. And affordability is absolutely key. We're actually, because the private sector, rented sector is very large in Enfield, roughly 25% of all properties are buy-to-let. The council is actually directly buying street properties so we can rent them at affordable levels. And in other schemes where we're retaining ownership, we are renting some properties at market rent to cross-subsidise other properties that then can be rented at truly affordable rents. So the issue is absolutely spot on. I think our ambition is to try and get 30% affordable. That does depend a bit on the support we get from the housing zone, because, as has been mentioned, building costs are very, very, very expensive. And if we can get support through the housing zone, our affordable 30% I think is achievable or could be exceeded, but without public funded support, and that's why we support devolution of raising money, then hitting the type of affordable levels on a brand new scheme is actually more challenging than actually redeveloping either existing housing estates or buying existing stock. Thank you.
Lovely. And Helen, you had a few hand grenades thrown in your direction. You know, it's not actually going to be affordable. You shouldn't be looking at taking the bus station down, and it's going to take too long to build.
I'll take those. I'll do the easy one first. So these schemes are always years and years in the planning, but I think what we've seen over the last 2 years is a massive acceleration. So we already have 3 schemes that are completed. We already have residents in the area. We get a lot more residents. We have 11 major schemes on site at the moment. So one of the slides I showed said that we'll be delivering 3,000 completions by 2016 and 9,500 by 2020. So I think in terms of pace, the development is actually going incredibly fast. In terms of the bus station, a very live local issue, which I'm not going to touch. So we'll avoid that one for the time being, but is part of looking really about the way that Vauxhall works as a centre. It's a hugely important transport interchange. Nobody wants it not to work effectively as a transport interchange, but it's also an area that is over-dominated by traffic and transport, and it's really about how that can be redesigned. So there are options of keeping the bus station, as well as perhaps one taking it away. But that is very, very live debate at the moment. Can I just say on the Northern Line extension, I completely understand there is an opportunity cost for the public sector in the government providing an underwrite. And it's £1 billion. It's a significant opportunity cost. But it's not cash over. You know, and we hope that will never be used. But what we do generate it's a business case of something like 3.5 to 1. We're estimating that will contribute back to London's economy up to £7.9 billion from the extra 17,000 jobs, from the new homes, from the residents, and from making Battersea Power Station a viable opposition. So it's how you use the powers that you have as the public sector to support investment going forward. And actually, I think on that one, it's quite clear there's been an extremely good case for that development to take forward. On the housing side, it's hugely difficult across London, this affordability issue. I would point out that we're in central London along the river, which brings us additional affordability issues. I would also say that we're building 3,000 affordable homes, and that affordability criteria is set by both Lambeth and by Wandsworth. It's a huge opportunity cost on the schemes, but we're also generating significant community sums, which are actually from review mechanisms. So in terms of scale, that's a big amount of new homes coming forward, which would not happen without the level of foreign investment and then, without the level of development that's happening. But just as a point of accuracy, and obviously didn't come out, I didn't touch on it in my presentation, Wandsworth have a policy of up to 15, a minimum of 15% affordable homes. It's much higher elsewhere in the borough, but in this scheme that they do, because of the level of infrastructure and the development levies that we set. Lambeth, on the other hand, is up to 40%. So if you look at St George's Wharf on the river, that has 40% affordable housing. So what you've got is a mix across all of those schemes, and we're actually averaging over 20% affordable housing across the whole of the area.